back in the building, and normally we always wait to intro the guests a little bit later, but that's been kind of defeated since we started doing the video a few years ago. So Joe Pantorno is here, as you can tell. AM New York, I'll do the full intro a little bit later. We still got to warm up, of course. Justin off for the week. He'll be back with us next episode. Just a heads up for the listeners, we're going to go heavy on East this episode. We're going to talk Jason Tatum coming back. That's obviously the big news. We got a gift from the basketball gods in that the news broke a little bit before we recorded this. So good, timely news here on the Driving Dish NBA podcast. We're going to talk a little bit. Obviously, Joe is here, so we got to talk Knicks being up in New York. We're going to talk a little bit of Cavs and Pistons as well. But we're going to do warm-up jumpers. We're going to start in the Capitol with DC. Trae Young getting ready to make his debut. Actually, tonight, as we're recording this, he'll be coming out here for the Wizards. First game in the uniform, though he has already been ejected, which is incredible, getting tossed from the bench, chirping the other night. So making an impact there in Washington already. But, Joe, I'll ask you, as we get into it here, obviously the Trae Young, the start of the trade deadline. And this is a fresh start for him after what was, kind of an up and down tenure in Atlanta. I feel like he's one of those players that, the opinions heavily vary on. How much you value him heavily varies depending on who you talk to. And so I will ask you that question. At this point, where do you rank Trae Young? How do you value him? And I don't know. Like, it's tough to really gauge what we'll see from the Wizards the rest of the season because they, of course, made the move for Anthony Davis and he's not playing. But I guess just where are you at with Trae Young at this point?
I'm still fairly high on him, regardless of how enigmatic he seems to be. But again, this is somebody who, on his nights, is an elite scorer, and this was, again, at least in my opinion, this was such a serious statement of intent from a franchise that has really been an afterthought and mired in dysfunction for quite a number of years now. So it's nice, at least, that they're kind of planting their feet in the ground and kind of at least signaling to their fan base, hey, we have something here. You might just have to wait until next season, but know that this is where we're going and it's going to start then. And I think that's such a relief. And obviously this is going to be, this is the face of the Wizards. This is going to be the engine of this team. And I still believe that he can carry a team into the postseason and make a run. I'm not going to sit here and say, he's going to win a championship by any means. But this is still a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference, and he should be taken as such.
Yeah, to me, the big question mark around the trade, it's not even about Trae Young, because I kind of think they're buying low on Trae Young. And look, we know what his flaws are at this point. Like, he's never going to be a great defender. I still think he can be an elite offensive player in a vacuum. The question of anything at this point is what's the impact on winning? We'll see. Like, this season, it's going to be limited. Like, he's already coming back. I think they're only going to play him 20 minutes tonight. Like, we're not going to see, again, going back to Anthony Davis, like, it doesn't feel like we're going to see this team fully in action. But I guess the question is with you, because you're right, because I think it's the balance of when they made these moves of, because you're right, the franchise has not been good. Other than Bradley Beal and John Wall and that little bit of run for there, they've been pretty much in the desert for most of the millennium, honestly. Particularly in the last few years, they've been excruciatingly bad, though they have some promising young talent. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying, hey, there is actually some talent here for the first time. It feels like they're building something. I guess, do you feel like, because this is definitely will put butts in the seats, which of course this is a business and we know they're desperate for that a little bit, but do you feel like it was a little bit too much of that move? Like, are you worried about this team hitting a ceiling too early, I guess, instead of actually having a viable window to contend?
I'm wondering if maybe there's this mindset that the NBA is so volatile now. The market will present them with something else 2 or 3 years down the road. Again, if things were to sort of run their course here, with this current percepted core, I don't really know. But I do think that again, if executed correctly, there's this kind of plan in place where this is sort of the soft launch of Trae Young, where Again, Brian Q said that he was going to play in between 17 and 20 minutes tonight, and I really don't think they should stray that much farther from that number for the rest of the season. Really, the goal of this year, or for the rest of the year, excuse me, is to get him as comfortable as he possibly can in his current surroundings. And then you kind of integrate Anthony Davis into the equation. Give them a full summer to work together, and see what you can do. Honestly, again, with that franchise, what do you have to lose? And I think that's kind of the mindset where, like you said, hey, we need some butts in the seats, and we have to take a step forward some way, regardless of how maybe sustainable it might be.
They'll also be in a good position if they're able to, I know the NBA doesn't like talking about this right now, but if we're looking at the tank race, like the Wizards
Yeah.
are right, Wizards have 16 wins, like the Nets and Pacers have 15, Kings have 14, but like they've got two less than the Jazz do, who obviously are actively firing up the tank right now. You get, and again, the Wizards have had a lot of high picks over the last few years too, but it's like, hey, you nail this pick. Trey adjusts a little bit well, and I think that's why you keep him limited too. Like I think there's, frankly, beyond the potential fact of re-injury, like you may damage the long-term outlook here a little bit, and you can still give the young guys some burn. Like I still want to see what George has. I still want to see what Alex Sarr and what Trey Johnson have. Like this is the time for them to still get, take your lumps now, play meaningful minutes, but not really get too much over the hump. And they might be in a position. I do think there's something because I might be a little more worried about them hitting their ceiling than you are, but I do think there is something about the volatility in today's NBA. Like more than
Yeah.
any, I mean, this has not been a league of parity, as we know, compared to, it's been a very dynastic league with the Warriors, with whatever team LeBron James is on, with the Spurs, with the Lakers, etc. Like it's been more of that recently. Like we talked in the past few years, like, what's it now? 9 different champions in 9 years. Like it does feel like it's more wide open. And to that extent, like, you do go for it a little bit more when it feels like you have an actual shot of winning it. I mean, even this year, you look at some of the teams that are favored to win it, especially in the Eastern Conference that we're going to talk about later. Like, I don't think beyond maybe the Knicks, I don't think anybody had any of those teams up at the top like that. So, we'll see. I mean, again, it's there's always just the injury risk too, right? Like it's Trey Young and Anthony Davis. Like that to me is the one thing, of course, that looms super large over all this.
Yeah. And again, that being said, for as high as I am on these moves, it is still at the end of the day a significant gamble. But you kind of look at how kind of the gap is shrinking between the top four of the East and sort of the rest of the pack here. And kind of like what you alluded to before, the parity lends itself to even if they can get one overachieving season, one surprising run, I think management will say, you know what, this was worth it. Even if it was just to reestablish a culture of some sort, even if it was to again try to establish against some of these young guys that you just mentioned, whether it was Johnson or Sarr, kind of show them something more of a winning way, maybe a little bit of competence, a little bit of stability. Um, Again, kind of changing the culture there. And you never know what happens. Again, it could be look, how many people saw, say, the Pistons, what the Pistons are doing right now? What was it? 2 years ago they had 18 wins. So it's not out of the realm of possibility where somebody can turn things around super quick. Again, are these the pieces to do it? Huge gamble. But I at least respect them for going for it.
Yeah, they're in a position where they have to,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And like I don't love that. I don't, but I'm also like, yeah, you shouldn't put yourself in the position where you have to. Like again, I worry about them just capping out. They're not going to have nearly as much flexibility. Obviously, Anthony Davis is a massive contract. Trey Young is a massive contract. Like that's where instead of just kind of letting it grow organically, but if the younger guys start to put the habits together, again, you add another high value draft pick, and all of a sudden, who knows? It is wide open. It's not like any of these teams in the Eastern Conference have like really ran away with it. Things change. Like we said, Indy goes on a run last year, pretty unexpected, and then they find themselves in the final. Like there's scenarios where this works. I think it just depends on, it's the enigma. We all want to see Trae Young, I think, in another situation too. Like I know for me, like I'm pretty low on Trae Young right now. I'm not gonna lie. Like overall, I'm in the more negative camp at this point, but I still want to see it in another situation. The only counterpoint to that in my head is I go, well, hey, yeah, I want to see him in a serious situation. Washington hasn't exactly been a serious situation here over the last little bit, but who knows? Maybe this is the start of that. I hope for Wizards fans it is because they have been anything but serious in the past decade, largely. I just, I don't know. Like I said, dynamic offensive player. I just don't know if he can, does he get his teammates involved enough? Though I'll tell you what, I don't know about you. Like I felt really high on Atlanta going into the season, and even Atlanta post trade, like they're okay. Like
Right.
there was one point they were 31 and 31, I think, and they had an exactly even point differential. Like that is so incredible. Like what a surprise there. Like that, but that also feels very on brand for the Hawks recently, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's for sure. And I think maybe management in Washington can kind of handle this a little differently, where they maybe tell kind of take off the reins, say, hey Trey, you know what, this is your team. Do run the show,
Yeah.
and like you said, maybe it's that breath of fresh air that maybe injects something else into him, because things had played its course in Atlanta.
Yeah. Oh, the breakup was definitely at the right time. Like
Yeah,
I fully agree with that. There it was a good time for everybody. Like the thing with Trey in Atlanta was I feel like this year and last year too, but more this year in particular, they really built a roster that kind of like masks the things that Trey Young is bad at, aka defense. They had a bunch of like, long, athletic, kind of wingy guys who could cover up the fact that Trey Young was not really going to be able to defend anyone. And it still just didn't work that well. But again, we're also a few years removed from a guy, going on obviously a super unexpected conference finals run. It was 2 games away from the finals. So, you're always going to have that. It's the pessimist being say it's been, going on 5 years now since that's happened. Like they haven't really been back since. They haven't been close really, but I'm excited to see him in Washington though, genuinely. For as down as I am, I do think I'd love for him to go back to the player that he was. Like, I want him to be, he's an exciting, dynamic offensive force. Like, I want Trey Young to be making logo shots. We'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm definitely, we next year will be the year where we start to see if this gamble was worth it. But I think it is a gamble for sure. We'll see if it was a necessary one. I guess that's really the question that we have. But welcome everybody to the Drive Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Again, my co-host Justin Kuzart is off this week. He's going to be back next episode. We're going to talk Western Conference a little bit. Justin's been in Vegas, low key, so like he's been having a better week than anybody. I know he put some money down. He actually put some $50 on the Celtics to win the final, which is disgusting for Justin to do as a Sixers fan. But low key, he might have gotten some value time there with Tatum coming back. So it's like, what did Justin know and when did he know it? I get we'll have to ask him when he comes back. But hold it down in his stead this week, Joe Pantorno at Joe Pantorno on Twitter, columnist for AM New York. Joe covers all the sports in New York, so hockey, baseball. My man will be voting for the Baseball Hall of Fame. How many more years you got? You got two. You got 2 full years of like card carrying membership
yeah.
now.
So this is year number 3. So I got like 7 or 8 to go.
Okay, that's all right. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
you're on the path to vote for the Hall of Fame. That is a lot more than most people can say for right now. Maybe we add an NBA Hall of Fame there one day. Who knows? But yeah, in the meantime, you can get the podcast anywhere you find a podcast, YouTube. I'll get there in a second. Google Play Store, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM. Again, leave us a review on iTunes. We will read them on the podcast. And you can watch the show on YouTube. Just search Drive and Dish NBA podcast and hit subscribe. See, that's Justin's portion. That's why I'm getting thrown off a little bit there. He's usually the plug the YouTube guy. And now a word from our sponsors. All right, so coming back again, want to talk a bunch of Eastern Conference in this episode. We are going to start in Boston. I was going to kind of go down the order, give the respect to Detroit first, but a little
Yeah,
bit
right
of
on.
breaking news there with Jason Tatum officially coming back this season. They're saying he's going to be playing as of tomorrow, as of recording this podcast, coming off the Achilles injury. Of course, been flirting with it the past few weeks. He's working out down in the G League. He had the main Red Claws jersey on. Um, I got to be honest, though, 10 months, I'm a little surprised. Though again, and I'll ask you right off the rip, you know, does the Celtics being this competent this year? Because I think, I think most people thought the Celtics would be good. They didn't think they were going to fall off a cliff, but a lot of personnel changes and obviously missing one of the premier players in the NBA. Instead, Boston's right here at two in the Eastern Conference, like very much in the mix, looking very lethal. I mean, that had to have pushed Tatum's timeline up here a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want to rush to get back to a winner, especially when they're playing at this level. And maybe I was in the minority here when you saw Tatum go down against the Knicks in the playoffs. I was immediately thinking, okay, Boston's punting next season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, and I think the fact, and it's a testament to obviously what Joe Mazzulla has been doing, um, but what the supporting cast has been able to do, whether it's Derek White or Peyton Pritchard or even just getting some of the younger guys maybe moving along a little bit more ahead of schedule, whether it's Neemias Queta or Jordan Walsh or Baylor Sherman. Regardless, he's kind of taken this raw product and he's been able to build such a competent supporting cast for Jaylen Brown, who basically showed everybody, hey, I can not only be a number one guy, but I can also be in the MVP conversation as well. And ultimately, I think it comes down mostly to him as the biggest reason why they're holding the number two seed right now. But how could you not now think of, you know, this duo where, Jaylen Brown is playing at this level and he'll be able to at least cover for Jason Tatum while he slowly sort of ramps back up. Um, that makes Boston so much more scary when they already were obviously a major threat.
Yeah, I mean the biggest worry here obviously is just the regular season time, but there only being such a little bit left because you do got to ramp him up. Like, look, this is an Achilles injury. That thing, God forbid, goes one more time, we're in big trouble. So I think playoff basketball is a different beast. Like you are gonna, and he's gonna get thrown into the fire right away. Like I think there's gonna be that temptation with obviously the success that he's had in the past to like go out there and play heavy minutes right away. Like I think he's going to want to make that impact more than anybody. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the one big thing here is you do have to ease it in. If there were a negative thing, as crazy as it sounds, because Boston, because right, like the punt signal was on, not just with the Tatum injury, but just and again, in all the moves that they made, letting Porzingis go, letting Al Horford go, like letting Drew Holiday go. Like this was a big roster turnover from that series against the Knicks. And like you said, I mean, beyond Derek White, all those other guys you mentioned who were playing excellent, like who on earth were they? Like you could have said that before the season, and truly, I'd been like, are they in the room with us right now? Like,
Yeah,
what are we
yeah.
talking about? Um, the only thing I worry about is does this tweak the chemistry at all when you add a guy like Jason Tatum, who's been, Jaylen Brown, like you mentioned, playing MVP ball. Everybody knows their role right now. This team is fully flowing and in rhythm. Now, look, I think that's probably an overblown concern. Like we're adding Jason Tatum back, and I don't think this is rocket science. And like he and Jaylen Brown have won a title already together. Like they know how to coexist. But it is a different element. Like Jaylen Brown is the clear alpha dog on this team, clear number one guy right now. There's nobody doubting that. Tatum comes back in the mix, and it is a little more split. Like it does kind of become a who's going to do what night. Now, I think because Tatum is coming off the injury, I think they got to lean on Jaylen Brown needs to be the number one option if they're going to go the rest of the way. But that would be my only concern is like just tweaking the chemistry. Like it's humming right now. Like it is a big adjustment there, giving him minutes.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and obviously it's maybe one of the more difficult things to do in the NBA, at least from what we've seen over the past 30 years is putting ego aside. And I would like to think that Jason Tatum can do that, and understanding that in order for the Celtics to get where they want to go, he is at times, or maybe at least in this instance, most of the time, going to have to defer to the guy that used to be Robin to his Batman. So I don't think that might be much of an issue. I think it's something that would have to be probably clarified instantaneously once he is back here. Like, hey, this is Jalen's team at least for, the rest of the way. I do think that they have an advantageous schedule. I think it's something like their next 12 games, they don't have to worry about having any back-to-backs. So it's not like you're putting in, you don't have to put an inordinate amount of a workload on Tatum and kind of take her as she goes. And yeah, things are obviously a little tight where they are in the standings. But I think they can kind of afford to experiment and kind of see what the perfect kind of mix is here.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, look, home court is important. I don't want to downplay that, but realistically, like 5 back at Detroit, I don't think they're going to catch Detroit anyway. So you shouldn't really be chasing them. Like, yeah, you're worried about the mix with New York and with Cleveland both being in striking distance right there. And yeah, having a second round series against either Detroit or against one of those two aforementioned teams, like, yeah, you would ideally want home court there. But I think if you're Boston, you trust your guys, you trust your coaching, like you trust you've been here before for the most part. And then so, you ride on that. I don't think you worry about it. No, there's no one really back at that point that I'm worried about making that much of a charge up the standings. Like, I don't think the Raptors are about to gain 5.5 games on the Celtics through the end of the season, short of something tragic happening. Um, so I think you feel good. Like you just can't be playing it for seeding right now. Like if this team is going to win the title, they need to be healthy more than anything. And so I think, and just with like beyond this, again, long term as well, like there is an element of risk to this. Like Jason Tatum is coming back after 10 months. Like this has not been the, normally this is a year plus we're talking. I don't think there was anyone at the beginning of the season who expected Jason Tatum to even think about coming back already. But again, like you said, the NBA changes. It's a little volatile. Like Boston went from punting to being right in the picture. Yeah, Jaylen Brown, a bona fide MVP candidate. Joe Mazzulla should, well, oh God, that's so tough. Like he should win Coach of the Year, in my opinion. Will he? I don't know. JB Bickerstaff's gonna be right in that conversation too. Which does segue well right into Detroit. God, that team that won 18 games was so bad. That might truly have been, and I watched the Sixers win 15 in 2015, but like that might be the worst team I've ever seen covering this podcast, and maybe just ever, honestly. But it was so remarkable, Joe, that Monty Williams made everything worse, man. Like Monty Williams committed coaching malpractice that season. That roster had like one NBA player and rookie Osar Thompson on it. And he was running out all bench lineups for like 20 minutes a game. It's like, dude, Monty, what are you doing right now? Um, but look, yeah, listen, the Pistons bona fide right now. I mean, what else is there to say? And I mean, last year, obviously, against your Knicks, I feel like that was their not just their breakout series in general, but like that was their seasoning, if you will. Like I feel like that's where I'm more bullish on Detroit in this playoff run than I was last year for that reason. Like they've been here before. This is not a first time, this is not their first rodeo. You mentioned MVP Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham certainly got to be in that conversation as well. I feel like there's a high chance he wins it at this point. But their depth, Detroit's depth just really impresses me. They got a lot of dogs. Like they build that sometimes a little too far with Isaiah Stewart, but they certainly have embraced, it feels like winning Detroit teams of the past. And, it's kind of, I feel like they're the epitome, and I mean them and OKC winning the title last year too, but of kind of what this new NBA looks like, of where you got your number one bona fide guy. The Pistons have that in Cade Cunningham, and then just a bunch of great players around him. Like you got a lot of depth, and I feel like that's what the Pistons have done a good job of.
I love the Pistons. I love them because in a lot of ways they are the antithesis of what the modern NBA game is about. They don't shoot a lot of three-pointers. They don't make a lot of three-pointers, but they are good on defense and they rebound well. And they get out and they outwork you and they outrun you. And I like to think that they're sort of carrying that torch for maybe some of, we're not the older guys, but some of the older fans or that previous generation of NBA stars and their fans that still think that that style of play holds water. And there's something really nice about that. I mean, they're among the NBA's best in net rating and defensive rating and offensive rating. They're as well-rounded of a team as you'll find here, and obviously that reflects in the standings. But it's nice to know that maybe not being the best three-point shooting team isn't necessarily a death blow nowadays. And that's because again, JB Bickerstaff, coach of the year, has everybody kind of pulling in the right direction here. And again, that's not to say that there aren't concerns with this team because obviously it's a completely different animal when you do get into the playoffs and your, defensive reliant team is all of a sudden potentially playing Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the, down the road a little bit. And, if your defense falters, can, Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren hold it, keep it afloat? I don't know. But there's something to be said about this kind of turnaround that this franchise has made and how they've bought in so well so quickly. And like you said before, most great teams have to learn how to lose before they can win. And that's what that Knicks series was. And I know I'm crossing sports here, and it's one of the more famous kind of quips, but when Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers lost to the Islanders in the 1983 Stanley Cup final, and they were all, fresh as daisies after they were eliminated, and they walked by the Islanders locker room and they were like dead and covered in ice and who's smoking cigarettes, and they were, they weren't even celebrating. It kind of showed, okay, well, that's what needs to be done to win a title. And I think there is, in part, that's what that Knicks series last year did.
Joe, that was art. You got I can't
Thank
believe
you.
you got the Islanders four-peat in there somehow. Like that
Thank
that
you.
was like that's how you be a classy homer right there. That somehow Joe's got the Islanders four cups in there in a Detroit Pistons conversation. Like you cannot
Magic.
replicate that. No, but I mean like but the Pistons are weirdly like they hit on their veteran additions, and I think they have guys who can get them buckets in a pinch. Like
Mhm.
Duncan Robinson, for example, is a guy like that. He
Yeah.
can absolutely give you a playoff heater and have one of those games where he goes off and hits 7 3-pointers and you just go, oh, that's where the offense was.
Mhm.
But really, I mean, and credit for them for keeping it afloat because we're not even talking about the fact that like Malik Beasley was supposed to play a huge role in this season and
Yes.
hasn't played all year. Like, you talk about one of their, he was arguably their second most important offensive player last year. The guy hasn't played a minute for this roster this year. And again, yeah, they haven't lost a beat. Yeah, a little more old school, like right. Durant is a little more of an old school scorer. Isaiah Stewart, we talked about a little bit. I you got to say nice things about Tobias Harris, man. I can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Other than him being a nice guy, like I do respect that, but like, veteran presence giving you that, I guess. I don't know, Detroit. You tell me. I mean, shout out to my guy basketball, Paul Reed there as well. But no, I mean, I like this team. Like, look, they just feel built for the playoffs. Like, and I mean, defensive series like that. Like, I know because obviously we're talking about the 3-pointers and all that as well, and like the revolution of the game. But like in OKC, when winning the title last year, a super great 3-point shooting team. But like OKC also defended their rear ends off the entire season, and still continue to do. Like, that defense wins championships motto is absolutely still ringing true here in the NBA, and like that's why you got to be bullish on Detroit. Like, I worry about right. Like if Cade's having an off night is who's going to pick up the load? Like that's my big question in Detroit come playoff time. Like I think that's valid, but I don't know. You got to feel pretty good about the way like they just been very business like this entire season. Like they just have got out with a good lead in the front, and it's gone the entire way. And the knock would be, I guess, the same knock that you've had for Cleveland in the past is like, oh, they haven't won anything in the playoffs yet, but I I have to see them fail like more than in it. Like I've seen them lose a series they're supposed to win before I kind of lump them into the Cleveland category, because that's why I've been so like hard on the Cavs is the playoffs the last few years, especially after last year. Like last year for me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Though in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you all the things I like about the Cavs now. So we I can be a hypocrite later, but I don't know. Like you're bullish on them come playoffs too, right?
Yeah, no, I'm 100%. And they one eye is obviously here, but they know that they have far bigger fish to fry. And they're staying grounded throughout it. And that's a mark of a team that I think is, again, it's still learning how to win. Um, but this is just the start. In theory, that we're already talking about them being the class of the Eastern Conference in year two of this like legitimate turnaround here. Um, that's insane, considering I think how many other teams we might have expected to kind of take this mantle or keep this mantle. So I don't know if it's fair to say that they're ahead of schedule because I think maybe some things around the Eastern Conference have fallen sort of in their favor. But no, this in theory should kind of be the norm for them for quite a number of years moving forward.
Yeah, well, it was always going to be who positions yourself. Like the only team I feel like going into this season in the Eastern Conference who felt like, oh yeah, they can make a run, they feel ready to go. Or the team we're going to talk about now are your Knicks. Like your Knicks are the ones with the expectations because they've been here before, and just because again with guys leaving, with the injuries that had come to Boston, like it just felt like it was kind of a perfect storm. Like the Knicks starting five has been together; they're all coming back. Obviously, new coaching this year with Mike Brown, but a slow start for the Knicks getting into the season, but it feels like they've found their form here recently. Especially in this kind of past third or so of the season. How do you feel about them again? And here's feel free to put the Homer hat on, but I mean, where are you at with this roster going to the playoffs? I know early in the year there were some, kind of some, smoke around Karl Anthony Towns, if you will. It feels like that has died down a little bit again. Like this is the roster we're going with. You know, can they win the Eastern Conference? Like, do you still feel like with the expectations on them, do you feel like they're in a position to make that run?
All right, so buckle up because this might be a little bit of a roller coaster here because I'm going to start negative, maybe go a little positive, and maybe end a little negative, if I can collect my thoughts correctly here. But I don't trust the Knicks, which might be a little unfair. January swoon sort of left a bad taste in my mouth, and in theory, they have the firepower to do something special. Jalen Brunson is capable of carrying the team. He is a superstar. Karl Anthony Towns obviously is a number two worthy of any really good, solid contending team. He is an all-star. Mikal Bridges, again, these great pieces. Defensively, obviously, both Brunson and Towns are liabilities. And Towns' defense, especially, is sort of what took the wind out of the sails of the Knicks push in the Eastern Conference Final last year. Um, and those struggles have been well documented. But Brunson doesn't add much either, and that's why I really like the Jose Alvarado pickup. Where again in crunch time down the stretch, when you need a stop, you now have options. And Mike Brown can kind of roll out lineups a little bit more strategically. Mitchell Robinson doesn't get enough credit for what he does on this team. I think he is one of their most valuable players, and sort of embodies what they have to do to win. He is the sandpaper and the grit and the force, under the basket that they need to sort of obviously keep healthy, but if he's there, I think that they're a much larger threat in the playoffs because I think we saw how much better they played last year when he was healthy and when he was starting. But I do think they are starting to peak at the right time. Um, and they can ride this into the playoffs, but there is something to be said about the significant pressure that is on them. And it's not well, I shouldn't say that. It's not only the 53-year championship drought. Um, there is the understanding that Leon Rose is sitting behind the bench or up in the box. And he's said it without really saying it that this is this sort of supporting cast's last opportunity to prove that they can win. Um, it's the reason why they didn't go all out for Giannis at the trade deadline when, supposedly he was made available. It's why they maybe didn't empty their coffers for, say, Jaren Jackson, for example. I think, a lot of it probably had to do with James Dolan as well, but they wanted to give this group one more opportunity to win. If they don't, I think it's a pretty safe assumption that Towns is gone. I think that they are going to find a way to try and move Bridges as well. Um, the puzzle is 80 to 85% complete. It's right there. But again, if I see them playing in the Eastern Conference Final against the Pistons or the Celtics, I'm probably not taking them.
Yeah, I mean, oh God, it's so that was a good negative to end it on. Eh, yeah, I think the path is still there. I mean, it's going to be the question, and there are a lot of people who say, can you win with a small guard as your number one? And that's what I think the Knicks are testing right now. And because Jalen Brunson is going to get attacked in two ways, everybody's going to switch on to him, and they're going to make his life miserable offensively. So you're going to have somebody else beat them, which I think can definitely happen. Like I feel fine about that. Um, but they're going to attack him defensively too, and that's where again where you need Bridges, you need OG to be able to just blow things up. Alvarado, like you mentioned, I think is a huge pickup for them as well. Like to be able to have him on the floor at the end of the games, like that to me is like that's a playoff type pickup. Like Jose Alvarado is a guy who I think is going to shine come the playoffs, like kind of the way that Josh Hart broke out in the playoffs a few years ago. Like he feels like a 16 game player. Karl-Anthony Towns has stay out of foul trouble. Like obvious statement is obvious, but like the guy has so many offensive fouls and like that has gotten them in trouble in large portions of the playoffs. It's also fair to say you're right that like they looked objectively better and the numbers back it up when they had Mitchell Robinson on the floor last year over Cat. Like Cat had some great games, but he also had a few playoff stinkers. Like he's been a bit of an up and down playoff enigma so far over his career. I do agree that this is probably the scorer's last shot, namely Towns. And I think because Giannis is flirting with him too. Like Giannis very much wants New York. I think Giannis adds a New York ring to end his career. Are you kidding me? Like he's already got a Hall of Fame career. He adds that, he breaks that drought. Like respectfully, the NBA Cup, of course. But it's still there though. That's the thing. I'm a little concerned with how Detroit has played them this season. Maybe you get in two or three, that may not be your concern. Like if you avoid four, you're not worried about Detroit till the conference finals anyway. This core needs to get to the conference finals at the minimum. Like I think if they lose in a hard fought 7 game conference finals series, I don't think you should necessarily be mad at that and take any big like takeaways from it. But you're right. Like they've had flashes where they've looked like a finals team and then they'll just go through a slump. And you're right. Like that makes you doubt it a little bit. There's other like random blips that they have. Like I was reading on Yahoo, they're 16th overall in free throw percentage this season. Like that might bite you in the playoffs. That's the kind of thing that, if you're going to go all the way, you got to clean up that, work on that. So I'm still high on this team. Like, I picked them at the beginning of the season in the Eastern Conference. I'm not fully about to move off that pick yet. Though I'm kind of with you. Like you get them in Detroit in a 7 game series. Like I do kind of like Detroit a little bit right now, but I don't know. Like again, you know the way the Boston is right now, still up and down. You don't know what it's going to look like with Tatum getting back in the lineup. You know, JB Bickerstaff has been a great coach in the playoffs. That's if you want to have something in Detroit. Cleveland, like, look, are we doing it? Are we convincing ourselves on James Harden again for the seventh time and on the seventh team or whatever? Like, eh, those are the positive things that you hang your hat on, I guess. But I'm with you. Like the negatives are glaring with this team. It feels like it's going to require another superhuman effort for Brunson. I know that at the bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly it rests on him, but I think the last, I would say, 3 weeks to the last month, I think what probably is the most promising thing is that Towns is finally kind of figuring out his place in Mike Brown's system,
Hmm.
where it's a little bit more reactive rather than, kind of these set offensive plays. And I think that's what Towns is obviously used to, having been with Tom Thibodeau for so many years of his career. And there's been no sort of ridiculous change in his style or his approach. He's just making shots. That's all it is. And maybe that's just a comfort thing. And maybe he needed half a season to sort of get there. But again, if you have a high level Karl Anthony Towns who is supporting Jalen Brunson, and you can get a Bridges who can flirt with 20 points a night, I mean, that's that should be good enough. Again, with the sort of defensive capabilities that they've been showing since the end of January.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, it's so weird, right? Because they've had moments where they've looked like an absolute juggernaut, and then they've had moments where they've looked like the worst defense in the NBA at points. So it's just kind of like it's the variance for me. It's not even like, oh, it's like, off nights happen. Look, it happens to the best of us, but it is kind of interesting. But you're right though. Like when if that defense plays like the way that it feels like they can all the time, they can beat anybody, right?
Yeah, and I wonder how much of it is just the want.
Yeah.
How difficult is it? Because obviously I don't know. How difficult is it to go out there and redline on defense for 82 games in the regular season? So again, maybe I'm gonna, maybe I'm putting on my rose-colored glasses here. Maybe in the playoffs, it's, okay, pedal to the metal, and we're gonna see, the best brand of Knicks defense that we'll see. But again, I don't know. I think there's and I think maybe that's what's the most intriguing thing about this year in the Eastern Conference is that there's a specific wild card with every team, in the top four. Um, so yeah, the hypotheticals are significant. But how do you not like your chances, I guess?
No, I mean you have to. If you're any of these
Yeah,
four teams, like you can talk me genuinely to any of these four teams winning the conference. Like
bingo.
Boston could separate it. Like if Tatum comes back, it is Tatum. Then all right. Like if he seamlessly fits in, it does feel like that they may have taken a step above everybody else. But that's a big if right now. Like that's still a big if coming off Achilles and when he hasn't played all season long. Like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's one of the best players in the league. Cleveland is a team that I've ran out of benefits of the doubt for, but they're humming post Harden trade. Like there's no way around it. James has come in, has instantly kind of known his role a little bit. And the other upgrade that I probably because you just don't associate James Harden with defense. Like James Harden was the OG like clip his guy on defense. He's probably a bigger upgrade on defense over Darius Garland than a lot of people are giving credit for. Like just off his size alone. Like he's just a straight up bigger body that you can throw compared to what Garland is. And I think already you're seeing teams exploit him less on the pick and roll.
Yeah, no. And again, I think the Cavs sort of got tired of waiting for the ship to turn around.
Yeah.
And again, kudos for them for making that move where they needed a shot in the arm, and Harden's there, and this is obviously a guy who's sort of everywhere he's gone, there's sort of been these championship expectations that have always sort of eluded him. Um, do I want to say, is this the best chance that he has or that he's had in a few years? Maybe. I think when he was with Brooklyn, it was kind of preseason. Everybody thought that that trio was gonna be something, and then it went downhill fast because that's kind of what ineptitude
Like,
does.
to be fair. Like that is the one.
Yeah.
Like everybody kills that Brooklyn tenure. That Brooklyn tenure, if KD doesn't step on the line, they win a title. Like, and
Right.
and
Right.
mind you, James Harden was like on one leg that game, and before
Mhm.
Kyrie got hurt, they were beating the Bucks by 50. Like, and
Yeah.
the Bucks won the title. So, like,
Right.
I do. That's a big caveat. I'll always be a defender of that Brooklyn tenure. That was gonna work. Like it was
Yes.
there and it was going to work. It just unfortunately blew up a little faster for me. Like, I agree though, in the sense that like the Clippers are just in a loaded West that always makes it tough. The Sixers are the Sixers, I guess. Like they had a better shot than he's had probably recently than because like those they could have been near the conference finals, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it feels like right. Like this is a team that could go on a deeper run.
Yeah.
You're definitely right, and I think it was the right call for Cleveland. But it just like it wasn't working. Like I'm fine running this back one more time just because I'm still high on Garland and I like that move for the Clippers too. I think he'll do well there.
Hmm.
But yeah, they needed to do something. They just have failed in the playoffs too much. And if you can't even put together a competent regular season, like, right, you need somebody to come in there and, get the guys more involved. And that's the biggest thing for me is that, like, Harden can just play well off Donovan Mitchell. Like, he's not trying to be like they're not trying to tailor the offense around James Harden. I feel like Harden is very comfortable in his role here, knows who he is, and in a weird way, like right, he's not scoring as much. He still can,
Hmm.
but he's racking up double-digit assists every single night. Like he's truly playing a point guard here, and that's been a crucial development for them.
Yeah. And I know, I think the pick and roll partnership that he's had with Jared Allen has been phenomenal.
Yeah,
And I think that's something where, when the lights do get a little bit brighter, that's something that they can kind of hang their hats on, when the stakes are raised. But we talk about, you know, say the Celtics, like teams that still need to gel. And I think that this is certainly one where, again, it's been what, 11 or 12 games of Harden, but they've had a lot of injuries, the Cavs.
yeah.
So, this is a team that's still sort of reloading. And again, it kind of shows maybe how promising this all can be that they're doing this well with this many kind of shuffling parts due to injuries. But yeah, I think, Harden has had to mature a little bit in his game. And like you said, he is playing the true point guard role. And again, understanding that he is not number one on this team. And that's it's not a bad 1-2. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the best tandem in the East, but um they can make a lot of noise. I still love Donovan Mitchell. And I still think James Harden still has a lot to give, and I still think that there is a ring at some point in this guy's future. Yeah, I
You just hope it highlights the best for everybody, right? Like Donovan
right.
Mitchell's been kind of stale in the playoffs. He hasn't really gone as far as he would have liked at this point.
Yeah.
They're not really selfish though. They'll be able to play off each other a little bit. You hope now Evan Mobley can settle into more of a defensive role. But like that's the biggest thing though is Harden is playing within the system. Like his ISO numbers compared to even the Clippers. Like
Mhm.
Clippers, he was taking what was this? Shout out to Michael Pena for the stat. 14 ISO plays per game of the Clippers. He's down to like 6 right now with Cleveland. So
Perfect.
I don't know. Like you mentioned, great with chemistry with Jared Allen so far. I think that's huge, and I think that's sustainable come the playoffs. Look, they just made other good ads too. Keon Ellis from Sacramento on a flyer, like that was a super great get for them, and they didn't give up anything for him. Like that was one of the moves I kind of killed Sacramento for. He was, for as much of the mess as they've been, Keon Ellis had some value, and I think he's a guy who's going to show that now. Like he is the type of dog defensively they needed come playoffs. Um, I don't know. Like you said, it just feels more, again, it goes back to what's the theme of the night? Like the conference is just more open. Like every one of these teams is beatable. Like they all could win this conference, but they all also could beat each other too. It just feels like right. Like there's more, and I'm still very much like I'm not about to just back off the like, I got to see this core win something, but I feel a lot better about them winning something with Harden than I did with Garland. Like with Garland, if they had made any big changes, I would have still been just kind of meh and writing this team off. Like I don't even know if I would have included them in this discussion of these top 3, 4 teams that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
We're now firmly like, no, they need to be there. They're a threat to win the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. I, I really, I don't know when has the East been this sort of wide open? Where again we can have
Yeah.
the conversation of 4 teams legitimately winning. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But there's no denying that when this team is healthy, I mean, I think they can give Detroit a run for their money. And I mentioned him before. I think Jared Allen has a big part to play in it. I still think his game has a little bit more maturing to do. I
Yeah.
still don't think he's there yet. But I do think that Harden is the right guy to sort of have to instill as the floor general to sort of kind of shepherd him through this. And I think that's kind of the X factor moving forward because I don't think there's much of a doubt that they have the scoring, they have the offensive talent necessary. I just think again, it's all five sort of being simpatico here. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm from just straight up matchup perspective, and I mean, obviously, I think this regionally helps a little bit, but I'm kind of rooting for like the Detroit Cleveland second round series, and then give me the Knicks and Boston rematch again. I'm fine with any combo of these teams playing each other,
yeah.
and spoiler alert, I do think those are going to be the second round matchups. I mean. All these teams that are left. Like, is there anybody you think is a threat? Like, Toronto is 5 right now. The Sixers are at 6. Orlando, Miami. I mean, Charlotte, low key, is the team that I'm watching more than anybody. Charlotte's been on fire.
So since the calendar flipped to 2026, the Hornets are 21-9,
Yeah.
a little under 117 points per game. They have the best offensive rating in the league. They have the fifth best defensive rating in the league. I think they're the best 3-point shooting team in the league.
I think they have the
Um,
3 highest 3-point shooters by makes this season between Khan,
yep.
LaMelo, and Brandon Miller.
Yeah. And what is it? Miller, Nepal Bridges, Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball. So that's 4 players, all 4 averaging over 17 a night.
Yeah.
This is, I pity the team that has to take them on first if they
Yeah.
can sustain this for the rest of the season.
I mean, they might get to like they might get out of the play-in. Like we're well past them making the play, and they're 5 up on Milwaukee at this
Yeah.
point, pending an all-time collapse. And they have space with Atlanta. Like they're tied with Atlanta right now, record-wise, but like they got some room there. They're going to make the play-in, which is already like they needed. You want to talk about we talked with Washington at the beginning of
Oh
the
my
show. Like
God.
they need relevant basketball in Charlotte more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not want to play this team first round. Like, I would much rather play Toronto or, as crazy as it sounds, the Sixers, given how they are right now. Because Sixers, you don't know if Embiid's going to be on the floor on any given night.
Right.
Um, Charlotte's peaking at the right time for sure. And like again, I don't think they're about to knock somebody off like one of these 4 teams that we've been talking about all
Mhm.
show, but they might make it annoying. Like they could and there's a world again with them getting hot behind the arc. Like that is where I could swing it. Like, you know what? LaMelo could go full YOLO and just heist the game on his own. Like Brandon Miller could knock 9 threes down and you just go, wait, what happened? And listen, they're here. They're a fun watch. I mean, the bare minimum, you got to watch them on League Pass the rest of the year. Like from a straight up entertainment perspective, they're certainly up there as well. Um, yeah, I mean, they to me are the standout. I mean, Atlanta, give them credit, has won 5 in a row going into tonight. Miami is the same old Miami, like Spo's doing his best, but like, what that roster isn't really scaring anybody right now.
Mhm.
I couldn't be lower on the Sixers as we speak. I don't really like. I'm beyond this. There, someone said the Jared McCain trade is our Luca trade, and I was just like, that is patently absurd. Only Sixers could be that doom and gloom about it. But
Jeez.
like low key, I get it. Like that's kind of the moment where like even me, where I'm like, no, I'm kind of done, man. Like I'm kind of done. Like you cut a useful young player and you send him to OKC to tax relief. Like, okay, you're just not serious about winning. So why am I seriously invested in this team right now? And it's even worse when Embiid called you out publicly and said, hey, you guys been ducking the tax the last few years. You want to like maybe make a move to go win, and instead you ship Jared McCain off and he's averaging like 20 points. It's going to OKC. Like, great, tight. Thanks, guys. No, they're not. And Orlando can't stay healthy. Like I've as much as I don't want to give Justin this credit, he might have been right about Orlando, and it's killing me. I don't want it to be this way, but like Orlando can't stay healthy, man. It's everybody. And if Franz doesn't play the rest of the year, which is looking increasingly likely,
Yeah.
that's my problem. Is it's like they're just not enough on that roster without Franz for them to make a run.
Yeah, it's a bummer because I kind of had high hopes for them coming into
Big
this
time.
season. It,
Post Desmond Bane trade, like I'm an Orlando fan of Jace just from living there. Like I do have a soft spot for that franchise,
yeah.
and this was the first year with real expectations in a while, where it was like, no, we're not just gonna like be building. It's like, no, we got something between Paulo, between Franz, making a move to go get Desmond Bane. Like that's a win now move,
Yeah.
and they're right around 7. Like they might get out of the play-in right now, but if you have them in a first round series against any of the teams we just mentioned, do you have them winning?
No.
And that's a bummer because I think there were worlds where people going into the season like had them as a dark horse, like conference finals pick, and now we're like they might lose in the play-in. That would not be good. I don't think it's going to go but like, would you rather play Charlotte or Orlando right now? Think about how insane that sentence would have sounded at the beginning of the season.
I would have called you crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. There was
Yeah.
no one on earth who would have said they'd rather play or would not want to play the Hornets instead of the Magic. And
Right.
here we are. Like I would definitely, I think 9 out of 10 times I'm taking that series against the Magic, and I feel like I've got a better shot to win. But either way, yeah, definitely a lot to watch. I still feel good about these 4 teams, but the Hornets are the one, and good for Charlotte. Like I hope they cause chaos. Like that's just keep LaMelo off the roads and all will be fine. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Drive and Dish NBA podcast. We appreciate you guys as always. My guy, Joe Pantorno, coming on. Check out all his columns in AM New York. They're online, too, so if you don't live in the New York City metro area, you have no excuse. And, follow Joe's Twitter for a lot of locker room content there as well. Not just basketball, but hockey, baseball, football, all that fun stuff. I mean, a lot of hockey. You stuck in some Islanders earlier. Like, you got any big hockey takes as we get out of here? Obviously, the Olympics super successful in terms of just like an exciting tournament. I'm not just saying that because the U.S. won both golds, but like that was pretty tight as well. Um, anything to keep an eye on for the last kind of little bit here? It's last third or not even really third. I feel like last quarter at this point in the NHL season.
Yeah, we got about 20 games to go. The trade deadline is Friday afternoon. Um, you know, again, keeping it local. Islanders are ahead of schedule, firmly in a playoff spot. Fun team to watch.
Yeah, the Flyers were ahead of schedule for like 2 weeks and then immediately regressed. Like it's
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like I'm not gonna go like full like give you the whole rant. Like obviously we can do this off the mic when we're BSing, but like dude, if the Eagles didn't exist, like it'd be bleaker than ever. Because like I go into the year knowing that two of my teams have no chance of winning anything, and my baseball team is rapidly going south this season. My baseball team is triple down on a core for some reason that has no business being triple down on.
Yeah.
But at least like they can be like, hey, we went on the World Series run a few years ago. That was fun. Um, the Flyers and the Sixers have given me nothing, man. There's nothing. The Sixers went from trust the process to we're trading Jared McCain for tax savings. Like, do you know how disheartening that is? And the Flyers just don't know how to not hire people internally.
Do you remember by any chance what you told me in college? If what was it? If the Flyers won the cup, I forget what it was. You said something along the lines of like the Flyers can win the cup, I can walk out of my house and get hit by a bus and I'd be happy.
Yeah, for sure. I totally said that. That 100% sounds like something I would have said in college. See, growing up now though is like 15 years later is knowing, well, that's just never going to happen. So, all right, like um no, it was great. I mean, I probably would have said that about well, I had seen the Phillies win by then, but like I would have said that about the Eagles too. As well. The Eagles
Sure.
ending the drought, like, we said to our buddy and friend of the podcast as well, Ryan Mayer, like Ryan's 4 month old exists in a world where the Eagles have won two Super Bowls. Like that ended an existential crisis in 2017. Like even when the Sixers and the Flyers maybe somehow against all odds one day win, it won't hit like that for the city. The city itself, like that was dude, like nothing that city could have got nuked and I think everybody would have been happy that summer. Like it was just truly and because they gotten so close, like because I mean, you know how it is in the 2000s, like well, and then you as a Giants fan, like you watch the Eagles get to basically to the Super Bowl one year, they lose. They're in the NFC Championship every year. They find a new way to lose. The Giants, the one year they get there, take out the 18-0 Patriots, like it, and then it's the double whammy of seeing that. Where now it's like, no, the Eagle. I mean, the NFC Championship used to be a horror game for me. We lost like we were like 1-5 in them in my lifetime. I think we won our last three NFC championship games by like 30 points every time. Like it's comical how badly we've won all these games since then. Obviously radically different experiences in both of those Super Bowls. Like one just absolutely beating the hell out of them and the other one I still watch and don't quite know how we won. Um, but hey man, that's sports. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of it. But the long story short is thank God for the Eagles because we got nothing else, man. We got nothing. There's no
The
hope going
Eagles.
elsewhere. New York is weirdly New York sports like I mean, New York sports I feel like are kind of at a weird spot too, honestly. Like it's always different with because it's split, as you know. But
Yeah,
even like the traditional top dogs in New York, like the Giants you can't really like call too long of a drought 'cause they've got two Super Bowls. But
right.
like last was in 2012 and it's been a mess since then, largely. The Jets are we ain't gotta talk about the Jets. Jets are there. My poor grandmother is the only Jets fan who like has
Oh,
positive memories with them. She at least saw Joe Namath win.
Jesus.
Um, I mean, beyond that, like the hockey has been kind. I mean, Islanders a little bit ahead of schedule now, but like, yeah, obviously Islanders have been kind of up and down. Rangers kind of down this year, haven't really made a serious run at it in a few now. The Yankees have been on the cusp, but it's always been, it feels like the Dodgers are the new Yankees, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is left? Like, it's the Knicks. The Knicks are the Knicks the hope right now?
It's the Knicks that are the hope. I do think obviously there's this narrative that, the Yankees running back basically 24 of the 26 guys from their ALDS roster, is kind of like a kiss of death. I think the American League at the end of the day is still far more winnable than the National League. And I
Oh yeah,
think with a
for
healthy
sure.
rotation, I still think they're going to make a lot of noise. And I think the Mets are going to be in the conversation of the postseason at least.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, the highs have been few and the lows have been spectacular. Where what is it? The last 10 years, um, the NFL teams with the most losses, the Jets are second, the Giants are third.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that really, and like the Jets, you kind of expect the Giants regression has been like Giants are the premier. I mean, like as an Eagles fan, like the Giants were our most respectable rivals, like Dallas in the '90s too. But like Dallas is, and I guess Dallas hasn't been bad at any point. Like Dallas is always pretty good. To be fair, like the Eagles and Dallas do usually split at this point. Like even this year, the Eagles totally blew that second game against them.
Yeah.
But like Dallas still hasn't won much in 30 years. Where the Giants, like no, the Giants have two Super Bowls like recently, like on DVD and on all that HD and everything.
Yeah.
It's just such a stunning right. Like it's stunning for them not just to be bad and like kind of regress because like you think about the Steelers, for example, another franchise with like great history, great tradition of winning, pretty mediocre the past like 10-ish years or so. And kind of
Sure.
just like the Giants just fell off a cliff. The Giants just said, no, we're gonna be the worst, actually. The only reason the Giants
Sure.
are getting more are because of the Jets. Like the Jets just bailed them out every year. The
Yeah.
Jets had no interceptions last year. Like that's insane that
What a
you and I on
ridiculous
this
stat.
podcast has many interceptions as the Jets did last year.
Just unbelievable.
Nothing
Unbelievable.
like it.
Yeah.
God bless New York. Thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. We'll catch you guys soon.